We need to speak on the severity of the dismantling and restructuring of the Department of Education to different federal agencies and how that affects you as an individual. As someone who sits at multiple intersections of the academy, predominantly a student in the academy, I read university newsletters. And even when I'm in school, I always just apply my interest to other programs in terms of what if I want to be an architect? Like, what are they saying? What if I want to study this and that? And so I also receive those prospective student emails as well for other universities. And yesterday I received an email that's a town hall, come learn about our program and financial aid structure. And at the bottom, it was saying if you are currently a graduate student, you're grandfathered into the Grad Plus loan as it stands. But if you're a prospective student, the funding has changed as it relates to loan services, also as it relates to the Pell Grant. But in addition to that, you need to try privatized loan options. That is the first time, and I have never been out of school in my life, let me say, that I have seen a university talk about privatized loans and then also have the beware of the scam and do your due diligence. And that should be a telltale to anybody. It doesn't matter if your child is 3 months or 30 years old. You need to really understand how the landscape has changed, especially as it relates to public education in the United States. If you did not know, you have to think about public education also on a historical timeline. Public education in the United States is merely over 100 years old, give or take a little bit. And also, I think there is this entitlement that this will stay in the exact same way as it was when I was in school, and it's not. In addition to that, we have to think about this from a workforce future modeling predictive, what jobs will exist in the future of work when everything is AI and everything is tech savvy, I guess you can say. Those roles, you're going to need a graduate degree. Quantum mechanics is one of the fields that's growing. Unless you are a prodigy of physics, you need a PhD from top universities at that. This is conversations that we need to have. I need parents of elementary schoolers, middle schoolers, high schoolers to understand the education landscape because your child is in school. And I want to be clear and say this is affecting public school because you also have to understand how education is pillared in America, right? So you have your public schooling, free education for all. Then you have private schools, which works on a privatized model, the tuition and fees, all of that. So there's a lot more freedom in terms of what the curriculum looks like, the accessibility, but you have to pay a heavy price, right? And most people cannot afford $100,000 tuition for middle school, elementary school, high school, and then add on to college unless you come from affluent backgrounds or unless you are deeply integrated into that community so they waiver your tuition and fees. I need everybody to understand what's happening in education. That's also why I am so stern on let's not have conversations that aren't constructive when it comes to post-secondary pathways, and we need to tell the whole truth for every pathway. And my last point in this video is that even trade schools are affected because that is a post-secondary pathway. Recognized under the United States Department of Education, post-secondary is after high school. Vocational schools are also losing funding, are also becoming more rigorous at the barrier of entry. and is also becoming privatized. And so I need people to tell every vantage point of the story. Not just what's happening in university, not just what's happening in community college, not just what's happening in trade school, but also what is happening in primary and secondary, what's happening in the workforce, because all of these things are intertwined and interconnected. And I need you to understand the severity because it affects you whether you're in the academy or not, whether you're a parent or not. And then you throw in the literacy crisis. You throw in the study that the University of California did on how the freshmen currently sitting in the university, most of them have to do remediation in mathematics because they're not even at high school level when it comes to mathematics due to the intellectual outsourcing in AI models. What happens when you are just using ChatGPT for everything? You're not engaging with the learning. That's why I come on here and tell y'all and teach y'all how to study, how to learn, because those critical skills are far beyond academia. Far beyond academia. When you're doing client work, if you cannot read a contract and you aid in your exploitation of labor, this is beyond jarring for me to see what's happening as someone that sits again at multiple different pillars and also doing the work of advocacy, doing the work of teaching, doing the work of city partnerships. But I need the individual to also understand. I need parents, especially parents of teenagers, I need you to understand the severity. And I need you to understand the importance of intellect, your intellect. Don't let anybody fool you out of educating yourself. That is the most regretful thing that you can do.